you guys believe it, that's actually not new. It's just that you guys haven't been there in that long.
What? It happened
last week.
That happened last week.
You've been away for fucking 3 months and you've missed the update. It was like last week, mate.
I'll tell you what, mate. You missed one. It's like, has Robbie Turner even been here?
Does he even do it anymore?
Have you been here at all, like ever?
And how good was it? We had so many people loving the stuff last week that I wasn't on. I was actually listening to it. I was watching it as a consumer for the first time ever. Because the times I missed it before, I've been at dinner or doing other stuff with you, Tam. So it was good to actually watch the train go by.
Well, welcome everyone. Lots of hellos coming in. Yes, apologies. Last week I had a mega migraine, so I killed it for everyone. Poor Deb couldn't join us last week because I was no good. And they're actually doing construction work across the road. Not great while you have a migraine.
We can attest that, can't we, Tam? We're 66 levels up, and sure as shit, we can fucking hear every single bloody knock of every
from 66
steel down there. Yeah, it happens.
Oh gosh, there's lots of hellos and lots of rock stars in there.
Absolutely, lots of familiar names. Couple of new ones. Daniel White, welcome, buddy. I don't know if you're a long-time listener, first-time caller, and you've been hiding in the background or not, man. But this is a safe space, buddy. Please feel free to sort of pop your questions in there. I do have your email there that you just shot back to us as well, buddy. So I'll certainly get back to that after we finish tonight, as I'm sort of clearing through my emails for the evening. But who else we got there? We got obviously the one, the only Kent Herman, number one, first in, best dressed from that perspective. Good to see you there, my friend.
And Sammy Wynn's in the house. Timmy McGregor, good to speak to you during the week, my man. It was like last night, actually. It was really great to connect with you for a little while. And like the plan and the strategic timeline that we put together in July, September last year, so let's call it 10 months ago, I think we're out by 1 month. And to be fair, mate, as far as that goes, is that we're going to bring it forward by 1 month because you've been even more diligent with your savings, and your money habits. So certainly Dane and Dan, you would agree it's rare for people to be outstripping their savings potential. It's normally sort of gets pushed to the right a little bit because people get distracted and shiny object syndrome and buying shit. I heard you talking to Tony on the
buying shit that you don't need to impress people you don't like.
Yes.
I've heard Dane have some very strong conversations with people about their savings before.
Not my crew. We don't do that. Louis Benny Hinton.
No, but it was good, she was explaining to you, Dan. She's like, look, and we're going to talk about money tonight because the amazing Deb is going to join us. She's in the waiting room. She's not coming in yet. We're just going to let us warm up for 10 or 15 minutes to start the lawnmower. Although she's going to take center stage tonight. Don't you worry about that, which I will thoroughly enjoy, by the way. Tony was saying, Dan, she's like, I feel like I've taken my foot off the pedal. I worked so hard to get my first property. I've done all the hard work and it's now an operational phase. Now I'm just buying shit. And I'm in the background. I'm like, yeah, buying shit you don't need. And then Dan rightly passed it on to her. And then after a few more minutes, and he goes, right, but now we're like, let's get back to good money habits. How much do you think you can actually save? She's like, I think I can save like $1,000 a fortnight or something. And I'm back going, good answer. So it is good. Like people go through, Dane, you've seen it through your financial planning background, mate. People go through mini peaks and troughs, macro peaks and troughs. Baby comes into life, overseas holiday occurs. Like you have money come in and out of your life all the time. It can't just be like pure savings. No. So I guess it's just all about focusing on those right things at the right time.
I guess that's one of the things, though. You can put those plans in place and I'm going to save this much. But if you're living that close to the line that you're not giving yourself any sort of rope to play, then you're not going to keep to the savings plans either. So it has to be realistic goals as well.
Yeah.
How's this? I so go for it, Dan. I just finished a two-hour coaching session that only finished 40 minutes ago, so I've got some fresh stuff on my tongue I want to be able to pass on.
Of course you do. I was just going to finish off by saying, like, it's very normal for people once they get there and they're like, I've made it. I'm the fucking champion. I've got my property. I'm there now. And then they're like, no worries, I've made it. And then it's almost like this little bit where they go, okay, I've been working so hard for this for the last couple of years. I've been saving my ass off, and we're all super proud of you. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, good money habits continue to flow through your entire life. It's not just for a small two-year period of time. It's like when we had Jason here a few weeks ago, we spoke about the fact that the small money habits that you adopt throughout the rest of your life are going to give you drastically better returns in the long term. So even if you have those small little blowouts, as long as you get back on track within a couple of months, and I mean, it was just fortunate for that young lady that we sort of had a follow-on coaching session. It wasn't like you've got your house, I'll see you later. It's like, let's come back together again. Let's make sure you're still on the straight and narrow. Let's make sure you're doing the right steps to be able to achieve your longer-term goals, because you don't get a portfolio with just one property.
I was waiting for you to say that one.
Got it in there.
Oh.
Got it in there, mate.
But I like when we talk about money habits, we're not saying, you're on the me goring noodles every fucking night. But in the end, if you have that's your first instinct, even if that, that little nest egg, you have a splurge out of that all the time, it's when you start to encroach and get into that surplus income, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you lose the ability to save. Once you do that, then you might as well just jump down the well. You're fucking gone. So
what it is done, you create a habit.
It is a habit. Yeah. It's a habit to do, and we all do it. Like you have little splurges here and there, and I call them the little rewards along the way. Yeah, fuck, we don't. Let's have a little reward. It gives you sort of fresh, but it's having that money habit when it first comes in. You budget, your budget, and you go and you pay yourself first. So absolutely,
we all love a little Trito every now and then.
We're all for it. We're all for it. The wonderful, wonderful couple I had the really privileges coaching for 2 hours. So from 3:15 this afternoon to 5:15. So you sort of finished a little while ago. He's the pessimist. Like he's like, holy shit, we only saved $1,000 this fortnight, not $1,500. Like that's it. We're gonna be sleeping on cardboard boxes. We have no money. Like we haven't hit our savings goals. And she's like, honey, what do you mean? Like it's still $1,000 a fortnight. That's still a lot of money that we've saved, and we've had these outgoings, so everything's okay. It was an awesome little dynamic between a pessimist and an optimist, and it was interesting that he is the serving military member, an adjutant no less, so a senior captain, and she has been the loving household wife for the last 12, 13, 14 years. She's the one that's optimistic about money and what their financial future is. And he's like you, Tam. So I was having this conversation with the dynamics here. I'm like, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it, as the forever optimist. But you're like, holy shit, we're like, something's changed. What's wrong? Like stop. So it was an interesting little dynamic to go through.
Did you just call me a pessimist?
Hey, so anyway, to great little intro there that Daniel White sort of put forward there. Thanks for being so transparent, buddy. With your idea there, your wife's now gone back to work after doing the family thing. Let's be honest about that. Like there is periods of time that we always speak about, fellas, that it's like there will be times in your life where you are appropriately placed to be able to go ahead and do wealth creation activities. There's going to be points in your life where you're not appropriately placed to go and do wealth creation activities. Daniel, I would say that you're special, but you're not unique like everybody else. Like at the end of the day, mate, like it is what it is, and it sounds as though you've got your head in the right space, mate, where you're sort of starting to get your head into the savings game, saving around $1,000 a fortnight. Like you're on the hard slog, mate, and the beauty of the thing that I love about your message there is you're like, I'm on my journey. I'm getting myself ready to go ahead and be able to find myself a property. Very happy to talk about living in DHA properties, I suppose. Let's talk about that as a quick little intro. I know we've got Deb turning up in a couple of minutes, but Dane, what's your take on living in a DHA property?
You already know my answer. Well, get me back in one at $250 a week rent is pretty much for me, but I get the sentiment, and I've talked to so many clients about it. So, when you sort of get in the military, you're there, and then you meet a significant other. You start to build a life together, but you're still getting moved around. Your partner is getting uprooted every 3 years or 2 years and has to go. Their career suffers, their super suffers, and they start to get the shits with defense. Let's be honest. You have a couple of kids, They're running around, they get some friends, right? They got friends at school and they start to integrate into the community. They got the play, they go on their friends' house. Like, then you got to talk to them about moving schools, right? You're there as the protector of the family and you want to do right by your family. So to alleviate some of that is you start going, okay, one of the things that hate is they don't feel like they have any belonging and this fucking DHA house is really pissing me off. Like, I can't put a picture on the wall, right? So to alleviate some of that stress, I'm going to buy a house and give us some belonging. This is it. We'll buy this house, be fucking great. I can mow the lawn wherever I want. I can roll around in the grass, it's mine. And we have a sense of belonging. It's an emotional decision to do that. And it's fucking natural to do that because you're a family unit and we've all been there. And it's one of the biggest catalysts for people going like, all right, honey, when you get your next posting, you can fuck off and go because we're not going anywhere. And then it starts going like, you start going, defense probably might not be for me anymore because I don't want to be away from the family home. I don't want to come home and feel like a stranger when I walk around. And I'm the guy who's been over here and there's a routine and it starts. And I feel like DHA, it loses its monetary advantages when that happens because people stop looking at it like that. They don't look at it as something that they're like, oh, well, if I stay in here and I go and get an investment property that yields me $500 a week and I'm only taking $250 a week to live here, I'm $250 better off before I get out of bed in the morning because you have all these emotional pulls that come with that, right? You're there and you want to be the protector and your family and you start to wanting to set down your roots and it's fucking normal, man. I get it. So I love when you say that, Daniel. I just want to get out DHA. I've got my family. I'm starting to save and I'm going to get there. I'm going to get them out of this house and we're going to be a unit and we're going to really belong. However, I'm glad that you're on here, man, because when you say, I don't know what I'm doing on here, I'm fucking glad you are here because this is the sort of stuff we discuss. And all of us sitting here have gone through that.
Absolutely.
We've all got big smiles on our faces. And like the one little word of warning is if you have that emotional drive and that lifestyle decision takes over what is the more financial decision, you throw yourself in the 30-year mortgage trap and then you're stuck there.
Yeah.
That's another whole conversation for another time.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely.
As Sammy Wins just said, this conversation sounds familiar to CJ. Like, this is like you guys are hearing this all the time. This is not a one-off. He's in the right place. You're around the right people. You're around the people that actually understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
How's
June
well trained? He is well trained.
Rent vest. Like, and so Daniel, you've kicked over your 13 years, man. Kent Herman, who you would have seen come on earlier, like double your time in defense, man. And like, they're only just getting to their forever home now. Like, they're only just getting to the point in time that they're going to be able to do that. So, but it's one of those things that when you have a long, hard look at the numbers and assess what is best for your family from a long-term perspective rather than a short-run perspective, you might look at things a different way. And I can't wait to share the next level of information with you over the next 24 hours, mate, that allows you to see that stuff in a little bit of a different light. It's coming your way straight after this, man.
Awesome.
It will. Isn't it funny, like 90% of the time the majority of the conversation always has a financial connotation to it or a financial element. Or what do the numbers say? How do you compromise lifestyle choices versus wealth creation choices? It's a good little segue, actually, and we want to bring Debbie into the fold now because if we're going to talk about someone who can put together the loan for you, got access to 30 or 40 different lenders, and basically understand and analyze your circumstances like no one else I've ever come across before. Tamara and I, she's our personal mortgage broker. All of our finances inside of outside of super and everything go through her as well. And I know she basically, provides the finances for everyone in the business also, as well as all of our sort of defense clients. I've known this lady now for coming up on 6.5, 7 years. She's not just a professional colleague of ours. She's not just a trusted advisor. She's not just the go-to lady for anyone that can't get a deal done anywhere else. She's the one and only extremely good friend of Tamara and I's, the wonderful Debbie Rothlisberg. Bring her in.
Hi, everyone.
Now, you better live up to that, buddy.
Mate, that's a tough intro to follow. I don't know about that.
No, but here's the thing. I challenge every single person who's listening here right now so other people can be aware of the amount of adulation and adoration that comes Deb's way type in there how your experience has been with Deb, as far as the getting the loans approved for you guys, and away we go. So look, here, I guess the main reason why I wanted to bring you on tonight, Deb, look at this, burger buns, boom, boom, boom. So we can watch that happen soon, right? But here's the thing: with interest rates being as low as what they are, i.e., borrowing money has never been cheaper. We all agree with that. But here's the thing: since that small thing called the Financial Services and Banking Royal Commission that happened a few years ago, with this fucking people crying on the bloody TV and fucking dead people getting bloody, served interest notices, etc. As horrific as that was, money's never been cheaper, but the level of scrutiny being placed on everyone has never been higher. And certainly, Deb, I want you to sort of now come on and share, please, and we'll sort of host you here with a few questions, as well as no doubt answering everyone's sort of responses here. We want to give everyone a real-time professional insight into what are the banks looking for? What are sort of some of the the key pitfalls and some of the pro tips that we can also pass on to everyone to make their life easier, which makes your life easier, which gets the loan approved, which is why everyone's fucking here.
Right.
Agreed?
Yeah. I've got the first question for you, Deb, because everyone wants to know the answer to this. Why did you just get called burger buns?
You'll have to go back to the podcast. We covered that.
There you go.
Good answer.
It was an exceptional answer. Noah, have you got a link to Debbie's episode on the podcast, actually? Because there was a real ripper session that we went through a lot of this stuff as well. So we'll make sure we post that up in there. And obviously there is a good story behind it. That if you want the answer to it, you have to go and listen to the podcast in case we haven't already done so. Betty, yeah, Deb is better at plugging the podcast than any of us are.
Luckily, we don't need to.
I don't know about that. I've been watching you guys for a while on the weeklies, and Robbie always refers back to the podcast. I'm like, hey, that's a perfect opportunity.
There you go.
Why don't we start with the 4 C's of lending?
Good one. That's a macro picture, really, isn't it? It's like, what do people need to have? What elements of their macro financial picture do people need to have their shit in order? So it's all about your deposit and cost. That's your capital or collateral, your credit rating, your capacity to service the loan. Yeah. And what's the last one, Dan?
Well, I missed the first 3, mate.
Sorry, it's the conditions of the loan.
I was trying to figure out where I was moving on the screen. Then I was like, what's going on here?
It's about your age.
So when you talk,
etc.
All the big ticket items, the conditions of the loan is where most people get tripped up, because I'm like, there's one more, but there's 4 elements to it. Are you ready for this?
That's right.
So it's not really 1 C at all. It's another 4 different elements that go through.
We're talking about your age. We're talking about your job. You're talking about your conduct online or your character. We're talking about your housing, like how much it costs, cost of living, etc. So, and Deb, I mean, as everyone here knows who's a client, and for those that are listening and that haven't been a client before, we lay over the 4 C's of lending war game or stress test, for each property. And we do green, amber, red, and basically lay it on the line there for you, Deb. As I was saying to the wonderful clients tonight, I'm like, the purpose of recon is to confirm or deny information. We're doing a recon of your whole circumstances, so Deb knows what to focus in on and confirm or deny whether it works. So, it's, I guess, is that a handy tool, Deb, that we provide you to do that little 4 C's of lending for you to then, start to do your real forensic assessment?
It's amazing. That tool, like how you guys hand over a client with the plan, the education, the client's goals, timeline is second to none. It is a massive help, for us to be able to know that those conversations have already taken place. I don't have to lose valuable time having to rehash that with clients. It's all right in front of me. When I do the client intro call, I have that plan up in front of me when I'm chatting with them. And so we only then have to worry about the hot spots in it and sort of, confirm certain facts and figures and go from there. So, no, it's very valuable.
Nice. What are some of the some of the trends that you're seeing? I guess my intro there, interest rates have never been lower, but the level of scrutiny has never been higher. Like, for instance, when I was talking to Timmy McGregor, who's on here tonight, when we put the plan together for him, I'm like, look, mate, the interest rate's going to be probably like 3.7, 3.8%. Like, that might be the sharpest you can get. That was a year ago. Now they're down to like 3.1, sometimes 2.9, depending on the amount of deposit and the strength of the deal. Everyone's individual as far as that goes. Every time you send out your approval letter, the only reason I open it up, I'm like, what's the interest rates looking like right now? Because as coaches, of course, fellas, you would agree, we need to be able to like educate our clients about indicatively, this is what the interest rate's going to look like based on the strength of your deal. So certainly, mate, what are some of the, the trends of the industry that, you're sort of willing to pass on tonight, please?
Yeah. Look, as you said, like interest rates are an all-time low. Like we've never seen rates as low as they are, but the assessment and the policies that we're still working within are difficult. They want to make sure that, COVID's still hanging around, and regardless of whether you're pro or against it, it's here. And so that's changed lending as well. They want to make sure that clients are in long-term, job positions, or at least industry experience if you've had a recent job change. Have you had adverse credit history? What was it for? What was it created? Interest rates will vary again depending on the lending ratio. What that means is, what sort of deposit are you coming with? Is it a 10%, 15, 20% deposit? The bigger the deposit, the sharper interest rate we can get you. So it's all a relationship depending on what we're looking at in regards to each individual scenario. Are you double income, no kids, or DINKs as we like to call them, double income, no kids? Or are you at, a household, with a tribe of kids, again, then we've got to factor in living expenses. Is there private education? Is there additional sporting? Is there nanny fees? Have we got professionals in the market that have got HECS or help debts? There's all different factors that come into, interest rates and products and what banks we will play with under each individual scenario.
Great. One of the things that I know you've been able to link really, really well is that if someone did a particular role in the military and they've recently transitioned into the civilian workforce, what attributes and skills and knowledge of industry sort of experience there can then translate into their new role. And that then gives them the depth, like the banks will see the linkages between what they did in the military. Like if you're a truck driver and you're now a truckie, like truck driver in the army and you're now driving trucks, or if you're doing admin, or if you're doing medical, like there's so many military style employments and activities that do translate across very, very easily. Yeah.
Very much. We had a gentleman that was an explosive expert for, defense, and he went into the mines. Well, it was really easy to link. And it doesn't have to be difficult. When people go, industry experience, we're just like, so long as there's similarities in the position, we can go across different industries. So that's important to know. And I guess the more transparent everyone is with me, and obviously with you as coaches, the better opportunity we have to be able to present them in the most strongest case possible. We want to be able to go with the bank that, when we put up a scenario or an application, we've covered it off in our notes so that it's potentially got a one-step process instead of having to go to multiple tiers of credit reviews pending what their background is or what hasn't been disclosed. It's surprising, and after all these years in the industry, it's still surprising how many people don't realise what credit facilities they have open. What comes about after a credit application is lodged, and then the bank calls and says, "Hey, Deb, do you know about the Latitude credit card that was opened back in whenever?" And I'll go, No, that wasn't disclosed.
But isn't it interesting as well, like the way that technology is now as well? You used to be able to just sort of round up your living expenses or just kind of guesstimate, and now like you're literally uploading statements and technology is reading stuff. Like they're going to come back and tell you if you're like a little bit too soft on that. Like people need to be very squeaky clean when it's leading up to a loan, but also just be so transparent and know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
One of the things you said there, which I found interesting, Deb, was the idea of a single touch application that you're putting forward, being able to get an application forward just through one set of credit assessment and so on and so forth. Can you just give everyone a bit of an insight as to the implications of it if you don't disclose everything to your broker up front and it has to go forward, then come back for reset, and go back and forward. Like, what's that doing at the moment from like a timeline perspective, and like what's the real time implications for a client, I suppose?
Great question. Yep.
Awesome. And it varies from bank to bank. But right now, if I've got an application, sometimes we don't even get it through the gate. All right. So we lodge the application. It goes through a preliminary assessment. Now, sometimes I've had it stopped where the client's signature does not match their ID. It's difficult, but it's a regular occurrence where we've had to go and have the client go back, look at your driver's license and sign like your driver's license. That's what the bank's verifying your signature against. That's the first one. Then we get it into Bankland and it might get assigned. So banks are busy at the moment. Let me just start there. Okay, we're still very, very busy. Thank you to the Australian government for all the housing grants and the stimulus packages and all those good things, and interest rates at their all-time low. But it's driving business. Banks, with COVID and onshore and offshore staffing and things like that, they haven't been able to keep up with the demand as much as we'd like them to have. Timeframes have blown out. A one-touch application that we like, Dan, is, again, it's dependent on LVR. It depends on the bank. It's when we're not involving lender's mortgage insurance, so it's anything with a 20% deposit or more. So it's under an 80% LVR loan to ratio. And if we've submitted that application with clear notes, we know everything about the client, I've got everything basically but their DNA, and it's a clean submission, we should have approval within anywhere between 1 and 5 business days, depending on the lender and their timeframes. Now, there are lenders right now that are still not picking up applications for 5 to 7 days. So we do the wait period in queue. Now, if I've got a deal that's a 10% deposit, so we're playing with lender's mortgage insurance, if I get through the queue and it gets allocated to a credit manager, it gets assessed. So that I might be in business day 7 or 9 now. Then it gets approved at credit. It then goes up to LMI approval. That's another 48 to 72 hours. Then it comes back down and it gets vetted with the verifications team, cross the T's, dot the I's. That can be another 48 to 72 hours. Now, at each one of those points, they could pull up and ask for something. So it can turn an application, and we have had them for 30 to 35 days, depending again on how narky the lender is being about what criteria they want seen.
I love your PC to it there, being narky.
Yeah, I thought I was going to start with a C. Hey, Deb, I've got a quick...
That's critical. Critical is the term.
It is. Yeah. I've got a quick one before we throw to the masses. I know, Lucky Hughes, you're not forgotten. You had the first question, so that will come up.
Yeah.
My little baby is the importance, I guess, of having a broker who knows how to navigate rental assistance. So everyone who thinks the RA is actually boosting their borrowing capacity, and you've spoken to me about the double dipping that they do, some of the banks. Can you enlighten the team, I guess, on the implications of rental assistance?
Yeah, it definitely depends on what lender we're playing with. Some lenders will take the RA as it is, rent-free, and we can prove that. Obviously, it's very clearly indicated on each defence payslip. Other lenders, regardless, will take it as taxed income. So then it is a real impact on servicing, because you've got your normal lease coming out of your bank statement. You've then got your RA that's actually being taxed. And then you've also got your rent deductions coming out of your payslip. So it can have a very, very nasty impact. If servicing is tight, we try and find those lenders that will recognise the RA and treat it as true tax-free income, as it should be. But each bank have their own policy. They're private businesses, etc. So you've got to work within the policy.
I've got to say, Dane, you let me give you a bit of public shout out here, mate. You're like a bloody bulldog sometimes, that when something doesn't pass the pub sniff Dane test, you're like, no, it's not right. No, that doesn't make sense. I'll go get the policy and I'll fucking challenge this. So you dug down. This is the stuff you love doing it after working in an accountancy firm for many years, and your dad's a very successful one. You dug down into what the Pac-Man and the ADF policy says about RA, and then you provided it to Deb, and then Deb was able to take that government stamped document to some of the lenders, and you actually got it reversed. or you got a determination anyway, whereby the RA is not a taxed income. So, mate, you should take, for anyone, there's probably a dozen or so clients right now that don't even know that they benefit from your diligence and, just willingness to not stop at no. No means no, but not in this instance. It's like, no, I'll fucking tell you when no means no. Deb, there's a government bloody document. So, and now that we've got a bit of a ruling as far as that goes, Deb, there's a bit of precedent that has been set, and you can now gain a little bit more momentum. And as you said, my dear, like when we're talking $400 or $500 a month, that's a massive difference on one's disposable income. It can really, really kill what their borrowing capacity is.
Absolutely. It was a massive change. And thank you again, Dane, because that lender, we do quite a bit of business with. Now, we are still finding every now and again that, depending on the credit manager that picks up an application, whether they're going with old policy or new policy, but because we've actually got that in place now, that's when I get my business development manager involved and we get that ruling again overturned and the file moving. But it's another one of those unnecessary stops because the bank internal system is not 100% across it yet. But we're mindful of it and we cover it in our application notes, and we're getting more of them through.
We're writing the wrongs, aren't we, Deb? We're writing all the wrongs.
Yeah, we are.
That's awesome.
Deb, what's it called on your end? Like when someone wants something from a military perspective, they call it an RFI, a request for information. What's your little acronym that they use for you?
MIR, more information request.
More information request. Right, there you go. There you go, team. That's Civi.
Another acronym I need to bloody know.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. You're right, Tammy. I mean, you don't really need to know about it, but if Deb's on the phone or anyone listening in, she goes, look, I've just got an MIR in from the bank. You guys now know that it's a standard RFI from a military sort of perspective.
That's awesome. All right, Noah, can you please load up Lukey Hughes' question? And just while we're doing that, I'll reply to Daniel White. Yeah, everyone does use PayPass these days, man. Like,
it was Luke Millwall.
Luke Hughes' question, please. About fixed rates. But the fact is, Daniel, it is going to be very hard these days to hide anything from the banks when you go for an application, man, because everything is online. Everything is transparent, and you got to declare it all. Gone are the days, mate, where you used to fill out a piece of paper and say that you only spend $20 a week on food. Those low-doc loans do not exist anymore, my friend. You will be looked at with scrutiny, and that's why when you stick around us long enough, you'll probably hear us say, good money habits, good money habits, good money habits, probably around, 30 times tonight. So once every 2 minutes, and I just caught up 3 of them because we were behind schedule. So we'll move on to Luke Hughes here.
And the other thing, just quickly,
yep.
everyone's PayPass or PayPal account has a credit card or a bank account attached to it. It's just an intermediate device. The money doesn't come out of your PayPal account. It swipes it from your actual bank account.
It's a middleman.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all transparent, all on the line. Deb, Luke Hughes asked, if you fix your rate for your home loan, does it stop you from accessing equity during that period of fixed term?
No.
Correct.
So if you've got a home loan and it's your value's $500,000 and your loan's sitting at $300,000 and that loan's fixed, we can still take an equity loan separate to the fixed loan as an additional loan against that property to borrow against for a deposit and costs or whatever you may need.
Love it. Good answer.
If you break the loan and combine the debt, then you'll have great costs. But there's no reason why you need to break a loan to take and borrow against further equity.
Yeah, you just grab another loan. It's for a different loan, different purpose, pretty much normally.
Yeah, and another example of that is when a client has a DOHAS loan on an existing property, but we want to use that property as an equity release to raise deposit for an investment property, we can still go and use the equity and borrow against that without affecting the current DOHAS loan.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Deb, and just to answer Ashley's question while you're on that train of thought there, DOHAS loan, you get an equity loan off the top of your DOHAS loan, right? Would you then need to stay with your DOHAS provider, or would you take the new mortgage somewhere else if you're buying another investment property?
If we're using the current equity with DOHAS loan, we need to use the same provider.
because they own the bricks and mortar of the original security.
Yeah.
Original.
So the equity loan, let's say NAB DOHAS loan, equity loan against NAB, would the mortgage provider for the second property that you've got an equity loan for still be NAB, or could you go anywhere?
I can go anywhere so long as the serviceability is there. So serviceability, when you go across two different properties with two different lenders, can be easy, and it can also be harsher. And the reason why is that if your current loan is with NAB and you've got a DOHAS facility, and then we're going, for example, Macquarie Bank for the investment property purchase, Macquarie Bank will service the NAB loan at the assessment rate, not the actual rate. So servicing can be a little bit more harsher. Whereas if we play with NAB on both, NAB will then recognise, they'll still assess the new loan at the assessment rate because that's duty of care, right? But they will take the existing debt as the actual rate because it's their money.
Oh, that's good.
Also look at the conduct of your loan and all of those good things. So that's where people go, hey, I'll get paid on a Friday and I pay my loan and I'm supposed to pay my loan on a Thursday, but I pay it on a Monday because my pay comes in on a Friday. No, get that set up that you are never one day late on anything.
Absolutely. All right, Ash, that should answer your question there, buddy. That you can go and play with anybody, but I think what Deb was saying there is having a top-notch mortgage broker to be able to have the flexibility of being able to go to any person out there and choose a variety of lenders to best suit your individual circumstances is really what you need to have on your side.
Yeah.
Before we jump on to Aaron Woodham, should we bring up Lukey Millwoods, or else he get lost?
Go back in time.
No, mate.
He's down there somewhere.
He'll bloody have a tantrum, mate, if we don't answer his question.
He's going to be sitting here one day.
Better be kind, Lukey Luke.
Whilst it's an individual portfolio dependent question, do you lean towards fixed variable or mixed structure?
Whilst it's an individual. It's individual choice. You know, if you've got it, like every scenario and every client's different. And you, as Dan said, you're unique. If you've got an opportunity to fix right now while interest rates are low, then absolutely take it. It doesn't necessarily impact, as I said, borrowing against further equity on any other further properties, but it also depends on what your next sort of couple of moves are. If we're looking at possibly having to refinance you out of a current property right now because the valuation didn't stack up and we want further equity out, then having a fixed loan is not the best interest for you because then we've got to break it. So until you sort of sit with your coach and work through your plan and have an understanding of what your long-term goals are, nice one, Robbie.
I was just thinking that too.
It's like a scene of Gorillas in the Mist. Seriously.
Fucking get yourself one of these, ladies and gents. It is a bomb. Doesn't want to scratch your back. You fucking.
I thought it was a ruler you got off your desk.
No, mate. It's a fucking genuine fucking back scratcher.
He is listening. He's listening, Dad. He's listening.
It's seen out of Gorillas in the Mist. Seriously, Jesus.
It's a new low. It's a new.
I just love watching Tamara's face, just going like
sitting under his there.
What is going on?
There you go.
Yeah. So look, there is no right or wrong answer to that. It's every individual's different.
Yeah. It's dependent on your next step, right, Deb? Like what is the next thing that you want to achieve, and what does that look like over the next couple of years as well?
And in regards to
trade-off, isn't it? If you're going to fix your rate down, then you reduce flexibility.
Correct.
So everything's a trade-off. So that's why he's sort of prefixed the question. It is individually dependent, but certainly if you want a little bit of security and a little bit of flexibility, you can have a 50-50 split loan. $400,000 loan, 200 fixed, 200 variable. There's lots and lots of different options.
Yeah, if you've got one property and you're not doing anything for a long time, then pop in and fix it. You know, a split's great because it does, as you said, give you full flexibility. But again, if you don't have a lot of savings or spare cash, then you don't necessarily need an offset account and a variable loan. You can just lock the whole lot down. So again, it just sort of depends again on what sort of surplus cash you have and what benefit it will give you in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bulldog, to give you some context, mate, like across mine and Ann's portfolio, we have fixed absolutely everything bar one loan. That one loan is where my offset account is connected to, because I only need an offset account against one loan and I run everything out of there. That's my central station. It's got a credit card attached to it. I run a sweep off my credit card into my offset account, and all my loans draw directly out of that one offset account, because I am exceptionally lazy and I want to make it as simple as I possibly can so I don't have to think about it.
I feel like your property coach taught you that about 5 years ago.
He would never.
Mate, I figured that out all myself.
You liar.
Well, I
Great to
just
hear.
have a bit of a comment on Ben Hinton's thing about online gambling is will affect your credit rating. Deb, you also, I remember a couple of years ago now, there's also the issue with games, like online games, and buying coupons and like online poker and all those kind of things.
Playing Candy Crush.
I was about to
I remember exactly who you're talking about here. Shall remain nameless. He's a great man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it almost went to go tits up.
But it's not just the online gambling like you're thinking, like the TAB and stuff. There's like so many other things that the bank is going to look at in a negative way, especially if you're spending hundreds of dollars repetitively.
Absolutely. Like they look at bank statements, and it's not just that anymore. Like I have to ask for bank statements because part of my due diligence is I have to sweep the bank statement. I have to have an understanding of what your assets and liabilities are and what your spending habits are. But the banks also are part of CCR, which is comprehensive credit reporting. They don't need your bank statements to understand what you're spending. So going back to what Dan said earlier about gone are the low doc loans and gone are hiding, you can't hide. If you are banking with a bank, and let me tell you, every major bank does it, has access to comprehensive credit reporting, CCR. You can go Google it. That's exactly what it is. They know what you're spending. So you can tell me that your household expenses might be $2,200 for a single applicant. But if you're at the pub every Friday night and you're at the pokies and then you've got a sports bet account and you're out, doing what you do, then your spending habits are well over $2,200 a month, and there is nowhere to hide. Now, we also understand that once people create goals and that they decide to buy a property, and their habits can change. And the banks are fair and reasonable about that, so long as we can show evidence of it. i.e., if you have a savings account. Now, I know, and I'm passionate about what Dane said earlier, a savings account is for savings, and every now and again, yes, you're going to need to have a buffer, you'll have a little bit of fun and you'll spend some money. But a credit manager got into my ear not so long ago and said, Debbie, a savings account is that. It is a savings account. So they can have a transaction account where your expenses come out of, but your savings should be any surplus funds regularly moved over
Money
there.
going in, not out.
Absolutely, not coming out. It's not a spending account. We understand that you can have one-off expenses come up or hit you, or there's a family emergency or whatever that may be, and you dip into it on occasion, but not every month, not every week. And it's about creating that habit, not spending.
Don't spend.
Nice.
There's a little bit of gold there, just making sure you're continually demonstrating that. And because there'll be a lot of people, I reckon, that go, I transfer as much as I can across to my savings account, my ING savings account, because I'll get 1.4% interest or whatever it is. But then they'll be like, oh, but probably put across a bit too much. Maybe I'll just grab back another $100. And that probably doesn't look too flash in the eyes of the bank, Deb, from what you're saying there.
Yeah, it's character, right? So it's planning out your spending. So, some really, really good, tips is, plan your budget, understand your expenses, plan for your expenses, have some emergency funds set aside for the one-offs, and save into a savings account on a regular basis.
Yeah. Good advice.
Do you find, Deb, that there's always one in each couple that is a bit more, I guess, hard-lined on that? I can see a couple in front of me right now. One has blonde hair that seems to be a bit more hard-line on it. Robbie, no.
Oh, you like my blue? Is that blonde? Is that blonde?
That's grey, mate. Yours is grey, Robbie.
It is great.
As I said, we're creatures of habit, but we can also adapt. And I think, particularly for our under 30s, right, is even your under 25s, we get out, we get into the workplace, we don't really have any really sort of debt. We're new to adulting. We've got some good salaries coming through and we're spending our money. Or we walk in and we go, we want to go and buy a new toy, whether that be a car or a motorbike or whatever that may be. Be conscious of that. Every time you walk into a car yard and they say, oh, would you like a pre-approval or a credit, can we run your credit? That affects your credit score. Every time you go in there and give them authority to run it, and they do, it impacts your credit score. Now, you can do an annual credit check yourself, just like a lot of us, we reach a certain age and we do an annual health check. You can do an annual finance check. You can go into, for example, Equifax. It's online. You can set up an annual credit review yourself. You can understand, you can get alerts if there's any inquiries under your name. So you know already if there's any defaults there. You know what you're looking at before you approach finance. That's really, really important.
Is there a number of those credit checks that are would flag something? Is it okay to have 1, 2, 3? Is it is there a certain number, or is it just kind of depends on the other sort of characteristics and loan criteria?
It's a combination of everything, Tam. Unfortunately, there's no perfect or straight answer for it. But, my suggestion is, again, reduce any inquiries that you don't need to be making. And be aware, Zip Pay, Zip Money, Afterpay, all of that are credit inquiries. That stuff hurts you. If you don't need it or you can't afford it, don't get it. You shouldn't be living past. If you need to use your credit card for an expense, you need to know that you can pay that off at the end of every month. If you're going into credit on a regular basis, then you are spending more than you're earning. That's not a good scenario.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway. I suppose, Deb, your comments before about doing a regular health check, I suppose, on your credit inquiry there. So there's Equifax. Is there a couple of others that you can go to? And Matt Riley sort of asked before, it was like, how often would you recommend that you potentially go and actually check up on yourself from that perspective?
You can do it annually. So there's Equifax, which is EQUIFAX.com. You can actually go on and you can request your own credit report. It's free. You can also set it up to be done to run an annual report. There's Experian, which is EXPERIAN, and there's Illion, ILL, I think ION. They're 3 Australian companies, or 3 companies in Australia that do credit reporting. If I run your credit report or a bank runs your credit report, that's an inquiry. It's a listed inquiry. So again, that affects your score. Now, there are some lenders will auto decline your application if you are 600 below. So it is an important piece of information to be aware of. The other part with defence community is, with all you men and women with regular postings, your bills don't always come to you via post on time. And we have had defence members affected by late bills, which then turned into defaults, and then obviously, listed defaults on their credit report. Get your bills sent to you via email. So there's no reason for you to miss anything subject to any postings.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. As a follow-on to that one, Deb, if you do find something bad on your credit score, what are the next steps after that? Like, if it's adversely affecting you, what do you need to do to potentially get you improved, please?
There are credit repair companies. Now, I do have a couple of companies that I do use, and I'm more than happy if anyone needs that information to reach out to me direct, and I can put them in touch with someone.
Okay. So you can fix it, and I suppose, Luke, you asked the question there, do the impacts of those flags diminish over time? So, Deb, it's like, if you're doing dodgy shit like 6 years ago, is that as bad as dodgy shit today?
I'm careful on how I answer this, okay? Because banks are like elephants, right? They have a memory for life. If you've got adverse history, for example, National Australia Bank, and we're going to National Australia Bank, it does not matter whether it happened 5 months ago or 15 years ago. They will know. Okay, so then you've got to disclose it. So if you have had defaults, you can pay to get them removed, pending how they occurred, pending whether you've had them paid. And then you've also had people that have, gone into bankruptcy, or they've, then you've just got to wait the time. And again, depending again on the bank, we've had some great examples where we've had some clients that have had bankruptcy or they've had some issues. And oh my God, Luke Miller.
Yeah, delete that comment.
Like what? 6 tolls that turn into 2,500 in unpaid fees.
Oh, I didn't even know you were talking about yourself, mate. I've got another friend that used to go through the toll roads in North Ryde down in Sydney, was using it month after month after month, racked up like every single day, used it like 3 or 4 times, racked up thousands of dollars worth of bills and didn't pay them. And then like 6 months later, it rolls down and it's like, you were meant to have paid all of those bills, man. And he got massive slug, both in fines for not having paid it, and then it also stung him on the back channel when he's trying to go and get his finance squared away as well.
Fucking hell. It's giving me vertigo, seeing those.
Yeah.
But we did have a couple of questions.
Don't tell Fran.
I think it was Aaron Woodham.
Oh, yeah, that was a belter. Can you bring up Aaron
bring
Woodham?
that up before, because we are 9 minutes out and we do have the origin tonight.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Yes.
Over to you, Dane.
If you have a PAYG variation order, will the bank assess your servicing power higher as you have more income taken home per paycheck through the year?
Yeah, Aaron, it does help. When we do bank serviceability for an investment property, we actually put in whether it's an investment property or an owner-occupied, so we can declare whether it's a taxable debt or not. So the banks take that into consideration. They'll take into your rent into consideration, and then we will see what your net and gross pay is on your pay slip accordingly.
Okay.
Awesome.
And there's one from Brad Green, I think, as well, who's on the crypto.
Loves it.
Yes. Hey, Deb, does the bank still value crypto as an expense, or do they now look at it as another asset class such as shares?
It depends. Well, if the crypto is just an asset, it's an asset, right? But it's a variable asset depending on what, like the share market, it's going to go up and down. If you've got crypto, we add it to your assets. If it's and that's all good.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that when the banks look at any form of asset, they sort of apply a stability factor to it, I suppose. For instance, a house might be a more stable asset than shares, which might be a more stable asset than crypto.
Yeah.
But it depends on then what other sort of asset classes you can also inquire into as well. So they might include it, I suppose, as an asset, Deb, but the weighting that they would apply to that would, I assume, be different to other asset classes as well.
We're not lending against it. So, I did a recent inquiry, for one of your coaching sessions not so long ago, and no bank's borrowing or allowing any debt to be loaned against it because it's so very, volatile. However, we will list it like any other savings account. I'll list it in there. If you've got 6 savings account, I list all the balances, and the same with crypto and shares. So we just put it in as an asset. But yeah, it's variable.
There's I want to give Brad my little shout out. Sorry, taco's internal, but who's sold his property over in Perth, Brad? I'm super proud of you, man. I know there was a bit
awesome.
Yeah, so you've gone
That
through
is great,
brother, and fucking massive thumbs up from us here at Axon Dude. So we'll be chatting a bit more moving on from there.
Yeah. Matty Riley, your question about tax would have been probably better fitting for Jace when we were speaking to him a couple of weeks ago. I just want to kind of reserve the time for Deb tonight to talk about mortgage stuff as well, rather than sort of covering off.
Any of the tax questions, just send us a message. We can send you Jace's email and you can go point to point with him. He's always open to answering questions for you guys.
Yeah. I don't know why our chat has turned into a lot of rubbish about New South Wales beating Queensland. But
Penny hinting out. Get him out. He's had enough anyway.
He's straying dangerously close to getting banned from our page, I reckon.
I've got a fucking. He's a shocker.
Just a quick one about the whole crypto stuff. I noticed our builder, who isn't a builder that we work with at Axon, but Robbie and I's house builder, they posted on their Instagram recently that they're taking Bitcoin for building your house with them.
Yeah, how good.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
I guess it depends on where the wave is, on whether your house is cheap or expensive, huh?
Yeah. For lack of another question, Deb, I've got one that I'm sure everyone would probably ask you 1,000 times, but I'm going to ask everyone to get their crystal balls out here to talk about this. What are interest rates doing? Like, what's the next step for interest rates, and where do we think we're going to go from here? Everyone, get your crystal balls out. I know you've all got them sitting under your desk, but let's go around the room. The guest of honor, Deb, you've got first shot at this.
Jesus, I've had in the last 2 weeks, I've had some fixed rates go down and I've had some fixed rates go up. Like,
tell us the future. Come on.
Why don't you know?
At some stage, they've got to go up, right? Like, we're at an all-time low.
That's what I think too.
You know, at some stage, it's an environment that has to go up at some stage. And, you know, as I said, we've seen, you know, I think it was Luke Hughes last week or the week before questioned NAB moving their rates. Yes, they moved fixed rates up 0.10. We've also had other, you know, we've had other lenders that have moved their rates down 0.10. So hit and miss, but at some stage it's got to go up. You know, I used to say one of my loans is fixed at 3.83%. And I was so bloody excited when I fixed it, because it was like, you know, never before had rates been under 4%. You know, that does not come off until April 2022, and I'm too tight to pay the fixed cost to convert it right now. But,
actually, just on that, Deb, maybe it was something that it was because we did speak a little while ago about reduction of flexibility. If you want to change, if you want to sort of break that steel chain they place around a fixed loan, it's going to cost you some money. In your circumstances, when you've got, let's call it, a year to go on your loan and you're getting itchy feet and you want to think about breaking costs, don't need to give it the exact amount. How much would it cost someone to break a $400,000 loan with a year to go on their fixed rate?
My example, I'm happy to share it. So my example was if I had broken my fixed rate, it would have cost me $4,500, but it would have saved me $576 a month. Now, you know, that payback period is actually cheaper for me to do it than it is to ride out the 12 months. But on principle, I'm not paying the bank the money.
Isn't that interesting? It's you're the conduit between us and our clients and the bank, and it's like the dance with the devil that you have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly you're automatically in our camp when it comes to being conservative with your money, though.
I am, and my situation's different. As you guys are all aware, I went self-employed in November 2020. So I'm actually not in a position to be borrowing money because my ABN's under 2 years.
That's right.
So if I was back working PAYG and salary, it would be a different topic and conversation that I'd be having about whether I did it or not. Yep. So that was also a big factor for me, because if
we've just been through like lending as, you know, as self-employed, and that's a totally different ball game than we've ever had to sort of go through when we've gotten loans for our investment properties.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess it's another key question, ladies and gents, please, which is so vitally important from interest rates go. I just listened to the RBA and the Governor, Philip Lowe. He's been saying now for months and months they don't expect to raise interest rates until 2024. Till he says something fucking different, that's what's going on in my world, right? So that's a good bit of peace of mind and sort of the near term here. But as just evidenced by Deb, even though you could then go and get a sharper rate somewhere else, the circumstances about why you do that are not in your favor. So it's not just about chasing the sharpest interest rate. There's interest rate, there's loans, there's products, there's features, and there's circumstances and outcomes. That's the bit you need to sort of focus on. The interest rate's just something that you need to be able to pay. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Absolutely. Dane, last minute, what are rates doing, buddy? Over to you. Get your crystal ball.
My crystal ball says it would be an extremely slow crawl back.
Agreed.
I don't think it'll be like how it just shot down very fast, because they were a bit like, holy fuck, the economy. Let's make things a bit easier on everyone. I think they'll be very, very, very aware, and it'll be a very slow crawl back. But they will go back.
Yeah. I take what RT said extremely close to my heart. The RBA never wants to say anything that scares people, and they've told people that the cash rate is going to stay where it is for the next few years. So I think the cash rate is going to stay where it is. But Dan's crystal ball says the banks are going to want to make some money, and they're going to pump theirs up without the official cash rate moving.
Fuckers. Thank you, Mr. Bankman, for giving me my money, but fuck you anyway. That's all right.
I have 1% left on my laptop, and it's time.
All right. Enjoy the footy tonight, everyone. Thank you, Deb. Amazing job. That was excellent. We'll have you back on in about another 3 years.
Yeah.
See you, buddy. Love you long time.